Right, last one. Hopefully this does go well because I cleared loads of space. So the first thing that we need to look at, located behind town hall, that's not a major issue, is the opportunities for revenue. So we've got 5 food stalls, 6 bars, 22 specialists, and 7 adventure holidays. So they all will have paid and will bring in revenue. They will pay, probably linked to the size of their site, so it's meterage and the position of it. Now the issue with this, or not issue should I say, the fact that there's food, bar, specialists and adventures, that means it spreads the risk. It's not as risky. And that's because there's revenue streams. There's more than one revenue coming in. If you just add ticket sales, then you might be struggling if people don't turn up. But actually, if the weather's bad, yes, you might not get as many ticket sales on the day, but these food, bars, specialists and adventure holiday companies, they've already paid. So actually, you won't have a total failure if the weather is bad and people don't turn up. You'd have major cash flow problems, but it wouldn't be as big as if you didn't have this element of spreading the risk across a number of people or companies that are going to pay. So that's really good. The next thing I'd look at is the fact that, we'll look at just the 22. This is clearly a competitive market. There's clear competition in this market, and that works for consumers. The reason it works is because when there's more people, they have to compete in terms of price. Sorry, more providers compete on price, and it gives the customer choice. Right, so it's a winner for us, but actually for the smaller companies, and in fact it's this spirit of adventure, the smaller companies often find it hard to find a competitive advantage because they can't compete with the national change on price. Right, so price is not really an option. They might have to put temporary discounts on, but those discounts will mean that their prices are so close to the cost that they pay. So their final sale price will be so close to the purchase price that they pay from the manufacturer, North Face, Jack Wolfskin, etc. So there won't be much margin. So let's say they would sell at 15 quid, but they might buy for 12. Whereas the bigger firms, they can sell at 14 and they buy at, let's say, 6 because they buy in bulk. So this situation really hurts the small contributor. In terms of spirit of adventure, what do? I think they have to compete on price. They have to lower the price. Somehow their USP has to be something to do with support local. It has to be. Not just a price orientated thing. They might be able to, because they're local, to get a better pitch. They might be able to put more advertising on because it might link. So the grant, the £30,000 grant, might have a few clauses in there that suggest that you'll only get the 30 grand if you promote local businesses, and that's when Spirit of Adventure would win. In terms of a question for this section, I would say, could you answer the following? Boat and Mountain Festival must keep all of the suppliers happy so that 2008 onwards they see the same willingness from suppliers to attend. How do they do that? So Boat and Mountain Festival must keep all food bars, all the drinks bars, all the specialists and all the adventures holidays happy in order for them to book in 2018, 19, 20, etc. How do they keep all these retailers happy? Right, that's the end of the 6 videos. I'm hoping that you've got a lot out of it. The yellow booklet is obviously key as well, so use this alongside the yellow booklet. The really important thing, as I've said countless times, is that you know the case study inside out and you can turn to the area that the question is discussing straight away. Really high marks are available for a few things. All long answer questions, and that's 3 marks plus, should have a quote. Put direct quotes in from the case study. If it's a long quote, write a couple of words and then ... to finish it off. Don't write out 2 lines worth of quotes. So if it's a question 3 marks or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, you must put a quote in. That's the first tip. The second tip is if you can cross-reference 2 bits. If you can cross-reference, let's say, some application from section 2, and then you actually compare it, and this is in the sort of 6 mark plus questions, versus something from section 3, then that is really good what's called analysis, because you're looking at it from 2 sides. So you're weighing up an argument. Now alongside this, so yes, we've got application, that's key, but clearly alongside your application, do not forget, just because it's a case study, the theory. So that comes in as key terms. So, for example, don't just talk about quality. The really good kids will take quality and they'll talk about TQM. They'll know the adds and disadds for TQM, which is that it has less weight, it produces less waste, but the disadvantage is it's expensive and needs training. You might be able to compare that with quality assurance. So you can see that students who are after a D or a C might just get away with mentioning quality, but the kids who are after that A to A star will mention quality in depth, alongside something from the case study, a quote in the case study that tells them that this is a priority for the company, or not a priority, or a concern, or an issue. So that's really what you need to do. And then on the longer questions, we're talking 6+, remember you've got to evaluate. Now that involves theory. It's a quote, sort of versus another quote if possible. So 2 bits of information from around then you talk about both of them. But then the important bit is that you evaluate, you use a different angle to make the final decision. Get off the fence. Don't say, oh, and they could do this, could do that. Actually make a decision and make a final decision. So that final decision might rest on maybe sort of the Bolton economy. It might rest on the exchange rate. So these are sort of bigger issues. So you might look at it locally. What could they do? What could they, how could they resolve it? But then actually the main decision is made off maybe external factors. So the question might be on production, about where to locate production. You're talking about job versus batch versus unit cost. But then the actual, you've made a decision to locate in the UK because of avoiding any exchange rate issues. Right? Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of the makeup of how you want to address questions. Cheers. All done. Guaranteed A stars. Happy days.